Hello everybody. Today, different type of video than normal. Because, well, today's going to be slightly more educational. I'm going to teach you all how Create works, or at least the basics of each age. But we're going to start from each age that you would progress through. Except we are going to do the Copper Age. You'll know when we get to it. We'll do that after we do the Brass Age. For one small reason, it is the smallest age in the Create mod, bar the train, or logistical age as it's called. I haven't covered that because that's its own video because it is tedious and, well, I want to give an own video to trains and teaching you how they work because I would really like to do that. However, the Andesite age, don't mind that. That's displayed in another room. Just don't mind it. I have husks in my floor. Oh no! As the name implies, the Andesite age is the start of it all, and like the Stone Age, you need to go gather stone. I'd zoom in, but I don't have a zoom mod for Forge, and I don't know of any. Which is why I don't zoom in on the Create world either, because suffer. However, these are the materials that you would start by getting. But you would always start by getting... Oh, for God's sake. It never fails. However, I turned the fan off this time. Bloody trucks. But yeah, you would start by getting yourself some andesite alloy. This is important. Keep a hold of this and always be making it because you need a lot of this. Like, all the materials you see in this room require this. Yeah, it's a lot of materials. Bar that one over there. We'll get to that in the meantime, and that one. But all the other ones require this. So it's very important. It's a very good vital tool. And the other two to the side are kind of just quality of life things you should make, but you don't really need to. Why'd that one go up there? That being engineer's goggles, which do have moving things. If I put them on, should be showing me the current kinetic stress impact. There it is. Yeah, that's going to tell you how much generators and stuff work at a speed, and then how much stress certain things are using. That's using 128 currently, that's using 0 because I didn't link that one. Never mind, it's linked. Don't mind that. Now it's using 64. And I'll get to those in a minute before we move on to the next stage because you would need those anyways. And the wrench, well, it just lets you change how certain things are connected. Like I could rotate. It's essentially a create rotation tool and removal tool, because if you crouch right click you can pick things up. I'm not going to do that because that would break a lot of things. I want to keep the goggles on, I don't need the wrench. These items. These are your vital importance, bar, I think, one of the things here being the one on the end there. Of course you've got your main connections that you would start with, as well as these two up here, and then a little bit more logistical and tidiness, with a little bit of logic. Bottom three, you have your shafts, your cogwheels, your large cogwheels. As you can see up here, large cogwheels lets you change the axis you can rotate them on. So, put two large cogwheels like this, you can change it from being a horizontal to a vertical. But, downside, you can't put large cogwheels next to each other. They have to be large cogwheel with small cogwheel if you want to put another large cogwheel on diagonals. So you would essentially have to daisy chain it. So if I wanted this large cogwheel to pull more power down to this block here, I would need that small cogwheel, and then I'd put the large cogwheel on this below that. That would then let me power from there without having to use the gearboxes. And the shafts are just like a central power mover, like a wire essentially. Very monodirectional, if you would say. But as I said before, gearboxes. The ultimatum of I don't want to use a cogwheel because they're a pain in the butt. But I also don't have the resources to move stuff, like the cogwheel. However, to make one of these, you need this cogwheel, gearbox, which requires an andesite casing, which looks like this, simply made by stripping a log and putting an andesite alloy on it. Any log will do. And then in the crafting table you get 4 cogwheels, one of the andesite alloys, you make a gearbox. I would highly recommend you get JAI if you don't understand what I'm on about. Or use the recipe book, that could work too. And they have 2 separate purposes, which is why there's 2 there. One of them lets you change your horizontal direction, so you can go in all 4 different coordinates on the compass directions, of course. Can't change the diagonals, because, well, this is Minecraft, diagonals don't exist unless you're building. Anyways, the other type of gearbox, the vertical gearbox, can you guess what it does? Can you guess? Does it A, go horizontally, or B, go vertically? Yeah, you guessed it, it goes vertically. You can see it working over there. Then, of course, you have, I believe it's the gear shift and the clutch. I believe I have them the correct way around. Essentially, the clutch lets you stop certain parts of a contraption past that box. So if you have power input coming from this bottom part and the rest of your contraption's up there, you power this, the contraption will stop, but the power source will keep going. So if you've overstressed the system, you'd simply just put a clutch down on almost all machines you have and start flipping some switches. And the gear shift lets you change the rotation without having to do that daisy chain thing with the cogwheels. So if you have something that needs to rotate the other way, you just put gear shift down, activate it, and it'll rotate the other way on the shafts. And of course you've got your in-case chain drive and... what was that one called? Adjustable chain gear shift. What? What? Okay, after a little look through, I've now figured out precisely what that thing does. You link it to your chain drives, and when it's activated, it doubles the speed of linked chain drives. And chain drives are essentially just, well, your shafts inside of a box. Those are the mechanical belts that you make with the what do I call them? Kelp drives? Nope, it's just called a mechanical belt. Why do I keep calling it a kelp drive? It hasn't been called a kelp drive in yonks. Huh. There's leather. Do it. Please do it. Anyways, these are your beginner power sources. You have your hand crank, small water wheel, large water wheel. You can see there's a size difference. If you couldn't tell, that one's the large water wheel. You somehow get these two mixed up. I am extremely confused about how you did that. But we'll start with the hand crank. It is useless. It is only ever used if you're chopping down large amounts of trees using the mechanical saw, which is going to be shown off in the amount of machinery pieces there are. Jesus Christ. This is only ever used for like single block contraption pieces like the saw, the drill. I don't know why you would be using the drill on a single thing, because there's machines people have made that you should go and see. Like, it's ridiculous. But if you need to chop down a lot of trees, use this in conjunction with the saw, and you can just wipe out trees, no problem. At the cost of your hunger. You will starve faster using this machine. Note that. If you don't know it, well, don't say I didn't tell you, because you can cry and I will not care. But then you've got your water wheels, and you can see one's in action here. I'm going to show you that properly working in a second. I don't have anything to show for that part. That's fine. As the name entails, put water flowing over the top corner. So pick one of these top corner pieces here. Get you some, I'll get some blocks. You would want to put, then the warped planks as water, I know it isn't. You would put water in one of these two. Of course, you'd have to have the block below the water source and a broken one on the opposite side. You would want essentially a C shape or a reverse C shape, so like a D or a C. That's the shapes you would want. If you want them to rotate faster, have soul sand, then your water sources like that, and the same on the other side. Large water wheel though. Large water wheel, just stick a water source like up in the corner here, and then make sure you box it in properly. And then that's just going to rotate at 512 stress units straight off the bat, and it's literally just 8 more wooden planks than that one. You need to make the small water wheel to make the large one, but it is so cheap, so powerful, you might as well just be making these. And another good thing you can do with all the water wheels, if you don't like the base texture, just change it. Right click with any plank. It doesn't have to be this. Any vanilla plank, I should state, actually. If you're questioning why there's Z fighting, it's because I put these bars on the side to make it look aesthetically pleasing, and I hate it. Because there's Z fighting. Now we are on to the main contraption pieces. These are the bread and butter of the entire thing. I think I just looked at the stressometer. What? Screw you! Just because I like the mod doesn't mean I'm a nerd. Although it's better to be smarter than being an idiot, and that's what you should say when anyone tells you that you're a nerd. Strictly because it leaves them either baffled or want to punch you in the face. Either or, run away. And that's another goddamn car out the window. But all of these have their different requirements and uses. And I've just noticed I didn't put the funnel here, but it's on the test to my right, so you get to see that in action. But we'll start with the top row. As you probably got to see from the achievement that I just got, the stressometer, which looks like this, not to be mistaken for the speedometer. I'm very confused of why you have to make the speedometer to make a stressometer by just putting the speedometer in your crafting grid. I don't understand it. No one explains it, no one questions it, we deal with it. Now, the speedometer, it just tells you how fast something's going. Not particularly interesting. Like, it lets you know if you have a gearbox, like not a gearbox, a cogwheel running at like 256 capacity, which then means you can only link a clock to it if you're using a single water wheel. Encased fan, 3 uses, or rather 4 uses. You can blow entities and items around when it's powered. The more power that goes into it doesn't dictate strength, it dictates distance. So if you put in over 1,000 stress units on that, it's going to go quite far compared to if you put 10, but it's going to be the same strength. It may seem more powerful, and that's strictly because it needs to cover the distance in a shorter or longer time, so it will act a little bit more powerful. But in its other states, the 3 other states, you want to just put more down if you want more power. And that is the smelting, the cooking, and the washing states. I don't have them with me to prepare for you. But if it conveniently cuts to me showing you precisely how they work, then there you go. If it doesn't, I'm going to look like an idiot. Now moving on to the lowest rows. And I'm parting this with the lowest rows connected to this beam, don't question it. Starting from the left, you've got the clock. To my knowledge, just tells you the time. You can see it's powered from the back there, and what else it does, I don't know. Goes cuckoo, I guess. Then you want the millstone. You can turn wheat into flour, turn the flour into bread, 1 for 1. Instead of using 3 wheat to turn into 3 bread, you can instead just automate the process, not automatic the process. That makes no sense, it's not English. Then you've got all the things that kind of go together. We have the portable storage interface, I always forget its name. Use these on your contraptions. For the sole purpose of it lets you move items from, let's say you have a tree farm working, you can move the items from the tree farm into your personal storage without personally having to endanger yourself. Because you put one of these on the contraption and then you set it off. You have another one of these that would be 2 blocks apart or 1 block apart from where you would want it to connect to your storage. Yes, it kind of works on a diagonal, but you can't put these on a diagonal connecting to your storage, so I wouldn't recommend. And it will move the items over until it is empty, and then it will keep the contraption going, and I've just hit my mic stand. That hurts slightly. Then you have... there's another husk below me. Also, don't mind the steam. You can see in the subtitles, steam noises. That's just the boiler running below us to power the signs. We also have the mechanical saws, mechanical drills, mechanical harvesters, and the plough. They're generally just called the plough. No, it's called the mechanical plough. They're all mechanical. Well, these are all going to be fun to unpack. Mechanical saw. Cuts down wood. Very interesting. Connect to a contraption that rotates and it will cut down wood without you having to power the back of it. But what I said about using the hand crank with it. Yeah, that's if you don't have the materials for a contraption, and I don't have the rotatey thing, or the windmill bearing in here. Oh well, I can just show you them when we leave this area. But yeah, it's the same with the drill, except the drill is for ores, stones, and obsidian. It's slow on obsidian though. It also works for like netherrack and stuff, and endstone. Bedrock is its only limit break, it cannot break that. Expensive to make, requires iron, and andesite alloy, lots of it. So not so expensive to make, kind of designed for you to just make it and then go get a lot of wood. But these bottom ones, these you can only make onto a contraption If you make these beforehand, you've essentially just wasted your resources. Unless you have mechanical piston. There it is. Unless you have one of those and make it move, because these can't be powered. They need rotation. Like movement of some sort. Some kinetic movement to work. I would recommend putting the harvesters on like an automatic wheat farm or something like that. The plough, you can till land with it, but I've only ever seen it really used in the tunnel bores that people make using the drills as well. I'm not getting into those because I hate making them and they are not fun. But if people want a tutorial, then do what's over there. Like and subscribe, and maybe I'll painfully do one for your pleasures. Now we have the bread and butter of the entire andesite age that lets you progress to the next age, being the brass age. And slightly the copper age, I guess. Some of it might. The only thing here that isn't for progression, or the only two things really that aren't for progression, is the depot, which just lets you put items on it, and then you can have the press rather than putting it onto a belt. So you just have it put on a block, like put it on a depot, and it will not despawn on the 5 minutes. It essentially acts like an item holder, or an item frame rather. So you don't have to worry about things despawning while you're out running around your base for 5 minutes doing God knows what. And the chute, of course. I don't need to explain, it's literally telling you what it does. It moves items downwards. If you attach a fan, it'll move it in the direction the fan's going. So if your fan's blowing out, so the air goes upwards, it'll move it upwards. If it's moving downwards, it'll blow it downwards. You know, it's not too complicated compared to the rest. Then we have the progression area. You have the mechanical press, which I'm going to get a gold ingot to show you. The mechanical press, which is here as well, it lets you essentially turn things into a sheet form. Any vanilla ingot, being gold, copper and iron, you can turn into a sheet. And these sheets are used for various different things. The iron sheets are used for your fans, your saw, and I think the plough. I'm pretty sure it's used for the whisk as well, used inside of the mechanical mixer. It's used for a few things, and I cannot remember for the life of me the exact things. And speaking of the mixer, requires the two things that I haven't mentioned that are staring us in the face, quite literally in this case. You have weird Z fighting because you're a different type of entity. We have the basin. Holds items like the depot, except it can eject items on its own unless, well, with the depot you have to have a funnel. Put items in, you would just throw them in the top, or put a funnel on the side, have a belt run in, and you can drop it off into a separate belt if you have the resources. Then we have the hardest thing to have, which requires you to go to the nether. And you have to go capture a blaze inside of a blaze burner. These require the iron sheets, which is why you would need to make the press before you make the mixer. Because you need to superheat, well, you need to heat up, not superheat. Superheating is a different thing. That is a different stage in the game. That is like late game, because that's blaze cakes. I'd say more on that in a bit, but there isn't. They're just their own thing, that's different heat source for blaze burners. But you put that below your basin, put a mixer on top, which just, as the name suggests, mixes items together. Like you can put... One thing people don't know with it, if you put in a basin, doesn't need to be heated, one andesite, one iron ingot, not ingot, nugget, you can do a 1-for-1, instead of putting 2 andesite and 2 iron nuggets, not ingots, you can get the andesite alloy that way. It doesn't make 2, it'll make the 1, but cheapens your resources. This now lets me show you precisely this, and I've shown you that side, which was demonstration of the press. This is a demonstration of the mixer. Don't forget all these resources. I just toss the copper and the zinc on this side, which are the materials you're going to need to find to progress to the next stage. I heat up my blaze burner, then combine together, we get 2 brass ingots, which are required for the brass age. This one's very jam-packed. The brass age, on the other hand, isn't, and I can probably flow through it in like 2 minutes. So, brass age now. As you can see, there is like a very small amount of things. And something repeated as well, and a very cute thing. I'm gonna get to these all. Also, new placards, which are just item frames, but look so cool. And so industrial, I love them. Brass ingot. Nothing more I can say to that, there's just a brass ingot here. Because I didn't expect to actually pick it up and then tell you what it was. But that's used for all of the stuff in here, as well as the brass casing. You're gonna need a lot of brass casings. Because everything you see in here, bar the deployer, requires a brass casing. The deployer's here because its hand requires brass. Yep, before you can actually have deployers interact with things and use them, you need brass. But they require andesite as a base thing. And electron tubes, of course, which are not too difficult to get. The brass lets you now have wireless redstone. And I know that's a thing we have in vanilla Minecraft. But you can't have it over infinite distances without putting a relay of different skulk sensors. This is literally infinite. I think you can put these in unloaded chunks and they'll still do things, because create entities work differently and are built different, as the kids would say. These have 2 states. You have the transmission state, where you would put 2 things in this frequency and power this one. You would power the transmitter, okay? And then you have the receiving state. Put the same frequency as what is in the transmitter, and that receiving state will pick up the signal of whatever frequency is in your transmitter. Of course, we have the deployer. You've seen it in action. 2 uses if I had the wrench on me. Actually, hold on. Now that I have the wrench on me, I can show you precisely what this does. 2 uses. Well, it has its use mode, where it will use whatever item you give it. So give it an axe, it will start stripping logs in front of it. Or attack mode. Give it an axe, it will start killing things in front of it. You can also, if you want a more peaceful version, you give it a bucket and it can milk a cow. Then we have the main fun of the brass age. Quite literally the main fun. Ignore the item vaults. They're like, literally you can make them before the andesite age. No, you're required to be in the starts of the andesite age to make them, my bad. But yeah, it's just item storage. Stores a little more than a chest, stores a little more than a barrel. You can put them in a 3x3, and then horizontally is how long that you can make them stretch for quite a while. It's just if you want a bulk storage without making a bulk storage. What we have here is the sequenced gear shift. Those of you who have never touched Create or never seen Create, I'm surprised you exist, but also are probably scared by that word. If you're not scared, good, because it's not as bad as it sounds. All you do is put this baby down and it will act like the normal gear shift, but also act as a clutch at the same time. It has essentially, when it's deactivated, it has an on clutch stasis, so it would just not let power through. You cannot get rotation through it until you power this. When you right click it, when it's placed, it opens this menu, which lets you do so many different things. And you can run through them yourself if you want to try them out, but in basic terms, what it says is what it does. Now we have the pain. This is a pain to get because it requires the precision mechanisms if you want to know what they are. No. It is extremely annoying to make, especially if you don't have a big factory early game. But the mechanical hand is so useful because it lets you automate where things go. So before you would have just used mechanical belts, and you would have just had them run off into different directions. Well, now you can have a belt that runs past, and if it's going into your storage area, you can, well, using these items, not the funnel of course, the funnel's more for stretching across several belts and organising that, or putting them into several different parts of a machine that require them. You can now filter precisely where you want things to go, because the andesite funnel only lets one item in and out, and know how the state is, but you can't filter it, so whatever goes in, goes in. The brass funnel, on the other hand, which is this one here, see the little thing at the top? If I put a precision mechanism in here, if there was one in that item vault and this was running, it would be shooting them out right now. And it can put it up to whatever limit I say. By holding right click, you activate this screen, and it's the same on the funnel as well. If I activate a filter, never mind, it's not the same on the funnel. What? These you essentially can tell them to like split things, and on the filter it'll split them on the filters, so it'll act like a funnel, but it only splits instead of just depositing. So whatever goes in is what comes out. And it'll do up to a stack if you put in a stack. Which is why I love these as well, because I can tell it, I want exactly a stack to come out, or I want exactly 16 of them to come out. You might be thinking, oh, well, it'll just eject, like, up to 16 and then stop ejecting. No, it waits till 16 of that item is there, and then emits that 16 as its own separate stack, which you can then just shift off to somewhere. So if you have several farms that require the same ingredients, then you can just filter out what you need, keep what you want, and then run them into funnels, and then just farm them off. This is the rotation speed controller. That's what this is called. The rotation speed controller lets you, depending on what part here you put in the power, the opposing part, depending on the speed you put in here, it'll go at that speed. So if I put power in through this part, and I told this to go 16, this would start outputting 16 RPM. Rotations per minute, I think. But if I put power in the bottom part, it would then have this one going this power. Quite useful for if you need to slow down your contraptions, but of course it's like mid-late game, because late game is now trains for full automation, because who doesn't like a goddamn train? And then you've got a recent addition, which I love. I absolutely love this thing. And it's the elevator bearing. I think it's called the elevator bearing. Essentially, it just lets you build an elevator, and if you compare this with a contraption controller and a redstone link, two things I haven't got in any of the rooms, but are quite useful. Redstone links, if they connect, then they emit a redstone signal, but on an elevator, they become elevator. I think become elevator signals instead, or elevator contacts. And using a contraption controller, you can then tell the elevator what floor to go at, and if you put buttons on these redstone links that will change their texture, you can call the elevator to what floor you want, or what floor you're on. Contraption controller, you're inside, what floor I want to go to. Really cool. I highly suggest you get these if you have a vertical base, or want to get to your mines, like, almost instantly. Then we have a smart chute. It's just the same as the chute, except you can filter the item you want, and if you power it, it stops. That's the only difference, is filtering and power. Not much to say. Same premise as the chute, put a fan, just does what that does. Tells you. Then we have these two. And I rarely use these. I have never used the Smart Observer, which is the one with the very happy face that I really love, and I want to use it more. Because I've learned this thing can detect what block's in front of it, and not like just a signal. The block, and it emits a redstone pulse. So if I put an amethyst in whatever its filter slot is, back here, put an amethyst block in front of it, it would detect the amethyst block. Any other block it would not care. I love these. I want to use these more. Because it means that you can make actual card readers now, because it even does it inside of what's in the chest. And up here is just a threshold switch, which just kind of tells you how full something is. It's quite boring. I want to know how full my chest is. Hold on, instead of opening it, I'll put a threshold switch, and then have that tell me on a bar or on a display. Because I'm sad, I don't know. Also, bell. Yes, Create has its own version of the bell. That's made with, I think it's a brass sheet and a brass block. Is it worth it? No. But its other variant is by Soul. Trying to remember what it's called. I think it's Soul Conversion, where you put a soul fire in front of a fan, and then you just blow that onto certain objects, and it'll change its state into a different block. Kind of like a weird alchemy, but really cool, because the souled version has the face on it. But when you ring it, instead of it just making a sound, it shows you all the spawnable blocks of hostile mob spawns. So it shows you all the blocks that are 0. In a quite large radius as well, so it's really helpful if you happen to light up a build. But here, is the display link. You right click your target, aka display board, and then you put it on to whatever block you want it to read from. And that is any of these blocks here. Take a screenshot. I don't understand the seat, but take a screenshot if you want, because I'm not running through them all. I'm guessing for the clock it's kind of just, you put it down, it tells you the time on a display board instead. Not my cup of tea really, I don't really use them. But then we have the Mechanical Crafter, which everyone uses. And it's for these in particular, and also the crushing wheels, which I've forgotten to put in any of the rooms, and they are really helpful. They're good for those things, and they're good for these. There's literally the only way you can make these actually, and they can be turned into rollers for your trains. Yet again, I'm not going through trains in this basics of what the blocks are. Because, well, they're trains, they deserve the run thing. But, essentially, give it a power source, and it will automatically craft whatever you put into it. So if I had this as a 2x2 grid, I could automatically craft crafting tables for whatever reason you would want to. But they're primarily useful for these, and I'm simply just gonna whack them out of the placards. And, never mind, I'm not going to whack them out of the placards and show you their recipes. I'm just going to find them in this tab and show you their recipes, because placard is irritating. Here we go. This is the only one okay, this is the only one you can make without the Mechanical Crafters. Apparently you can make this quite early on with a redstone link. So that's that recipe. Alright, should have got your screenshots by now, hopefully. Then you have Potato Cannon. Extendo Grip. Literally in its name, just extends your grip. Wand of Symmetry, I've never used this. But essentially, Mechanical Crafter, you can also make shops to like sell wood and stuff. I'd recommend you go watch Shals currently. He's on a create world of his own. Create survival world with some of his friends, and he's making a wood farm, or a wood shop rather. Go watch him. He's really good at the create mod and shows you a lot of stuff, especially through a lot of his videos. Really good at it actually. I think it's Rage Still Plays as well. He's really good at the create mod. Like, surprisingly good. As if he would make it, but he doesn't. Watch him if you want exact tutorials on how to do a lot of things. However, now we're at the Copper Age. And you're probably noticing there's also some new armor suits that Create gives you. They're just for diving. And the Create Age is all about fluids, baby! And this is literally all that the Copper Age is. Yeah, I'm not joking. This is the Copper Age. In the entirety. You're probably thinking, oh, the suit of armor to your right doesn't look like copper. And that's because it isn't, it's netherite. But it requires that copper suit to turn into that. And some netherite leggings, of course. But, we'll start left to right. And it is extremely simple. Fluid tank. Stores fluids. Fluid pump. Pumps fluids. Put it in something that has more than 10,000 blocks of a fluid of water or lava and it will become infinite. So an ocean or a lava ocean inside the nether. Fluid drain. Put a bucket on top. Drains the bucket. Fluid spout. Put an empty bucket underneath. Will fill up the bucket. Also does it for potion bottles and everything else. Any fluid really. Portable fluid interface. Lets you move fluids from one tank to another, especially on a train. Really useful for the infinite lava thing, because trains can go through portals. Yeah, fun. Everything here will require one of those casings, and then either brass or the andesite alloys. Really depends on what you're doing. These are through any of the stages. Then we have the boilers and the whistle. To make a boiler, put a steam engine on top of a fluid tank that has a shaft. There you go, you have a boiler. To fuel it, you require to pump in some water and give it some heat. Preferably use the blaze burners. Steam whistle is literally, it's just a whistle based off steam. Quite useful on trains. Requires a boiler of its own on the train though. Just an idle one will do. Now we have the fluid pipes. These are extremely easy. Fluid pipe. Right click with wrench lets you see through it. Just transport the fluid. Fluid. I think it's mechanical fluid pump. Something like that. The arrow dictates where the fluid goes. When you give it a power, it acts essentially just like the pump. But it pushes the water or lava in a certain direction. The smart fluid pipe. You put a... So if you had two fluids about to collide, you would put a filter on this and you can tell one fluid to go one way while the other one gets to go past the other. I think it essentially lets you use one pipe for everything. So it's pretty good. And then you've got the fluid valve, which just put a valve on the side and lets you stop or let fluids go through certain ways. That's literally it. That's all of the Brass Age, bar the suit. The diving suit. I wish I had a test area for this. You can't wear the goggles with it, which is quite sad. Quite terrible on armor, but that's not the point. The point is to let you dive underwater without needing potions. For 15 minutes currently, I could go under the water and not drown. And the boots weigh you down. The helmet is what lets you have the oxygen. The boots are optional. The boots are the only optional piece, okay? Keep that in mind. Because I don't want people in the comments saying, oh, I died because I wore the suit. You need to charge the backpack. But it's the next suit of armor is where things get interesting. I'm just going to put these back on display. This suit of armor. Now this is a precious baby to any Kree engineer currently. Helmet. This, as you can see, it's like full netherite. This baby lets you swim in lava without dying. You don't need fire res, all you need is pressure in the tank. If you enchant your tank with the capacity enchant which Create has, you can then have the 30 minutes instead of 15. It's the same with the copper one. This has the same enchants and stuff. The only difference is this can go in lava and water. The copper one can only go in water. As well as this one having more protection, and you need to wear the full suit. You need to wear the full suit to go into lava. I should state this now before people go and wear this and then dive in lava without realizing they need the netherite pants as well. You can't just go in without the boots, you require all of it. When you're in water, you can wear half of it. When in lava, you need the entire thing. Okay? Don't be killing yourselves now, because you didn't watch through the entire thing. Steam, 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 steam. Right, up there. Just barely visible. That's the mechanical bearing. That's the thing that lets things go spinny spin. And then you've got the windmill bearing, which don't mistake with that one. That lets you power things while it goes spinny spin. There's a clockwork bearing as well, but that's literally just there to make a clock. Like a full multi-block clock, that's it. Yeah, that literally covers all that you can do with Create. That is every single thing I can think of to cover that is on the basics level. Okay? Can't come complaining to me about all the different things not working for you or anything. These are just the basics, okay? Please don't go crying, because I'm not gonna help you, and I'm gonna laugh at you, because I'm an arse. Do it. Yeah, that's all. This video could not have been any shorter or longer. This is literally as much as this can be. I'm gonna move back up here. I am still so proud of this, like, wall design. I started with this. Oh no! Immersion of how I entered here, it's broken. Not showing you the outside though, because I totally built the outside. Okay, bye.